Hey guys! Today I wanted to do a video about Wuthering Heights. It's a novel that I have read years ago. It was one of my first classic literature pieces. While reading it, I was very confused. I found it difficult and I didn't quite understand what was going on all the time. And so I finished reading it with such a I don't know, I felt kind of stupid and I didn't really understand what was going on. So I decided that I wanted to give the book another try now that I've evolved as a reader, and I did my reread of Wuthering Heights. I finished the book and I'm here today to share my experience with you all. First of all, I want to give a little bit of background information about the book and about the author. So Wuthering Heights was published in 1847 by Emily Bronte. The book was very controversial at the time because there was a lot of physical and mental cruelty. She used a pen name and her name was Alice Bell. So it was published under her pen name. Hello, my dear. Hey there. After Emily's death, Charlotte decided to edit the new version of the book. Her sister also diluted the accent of Joseph, his very heavy Yorkshire dialect. So, have I changed my opinion about the book? Yes, I did. I completely changed my opinion. First of all, I printed a family tree because I haven't changed my opinion about this book being difficult to read. Mainly because all of the characters have the same names. For example, we have a father and the father dies and the kid has the same name as the father, and so on. So it's with every character, it's the same. This family tree really helped me out and helped me keep track of the characters. I hadn't seen any movie adaptation, so I went in completely blind. I didn't remember anything from the first time that I've read it. So yeah, I went in completely blind. I didn't know anything. So if you are going in blind too, then I highly recommend printing yourself a family tree. It's gonna help you tremendously. While I read a book, I sometimes tend to zone out, like I sometimes think about something else and then I don't remember what I've read on the page. And most books are quite forgiving when you do that, but Wuthering Heights isn't that book. Whenever I zoned out or when I realized I wasn't putting in the attention and the effort that the book deserved, I either closed it and picked up another less difficult book to read, or I just reread the whole page again. If you miss certain things about the novel, just one page, it's gonna be more difficult, and it is already difficult, so I recommend you putting all of your attention and 100% of your dedication to reading this novel. I also want to give some tips for when you want to read the book or when you are struggling with reading the book. So I'm hoping that these tips will get you through. First, when you start reading and you notice that you don't really connect with the story, or you don't understand, or it is too difficult at the time right now, I highly suggest you watch an adaptation first. Normally, I tend to prefer reading the book first because of spoilers, and you know, the experience of reading a book first is so much better. But with difficult books, I sometimes prefer to watch the movie first or watch one of the adaptations of the movies first before I go into the novel, because when there are a lot of characters and you can hardly separate them from each other, then it makes such a huge difference. Like I had the same thing with Pride and Prejudice. Like I was so happy that I watched the movie adaptation first before reading the book, because there were so many characters and all the sisters and everything. But yeah, and the second thing I would suggest is to go as slow as you possibly can. This book deserves 100% of your attention, and you cannot afford to lose attention while reading this book. Tip number 3, like I said, print a family tree. Gonna help you so much. Tip number 4, make sure you are in the right mindset. Make sure that you commit yourself 100% to the novel. Tip number 5, like I said, there are a lot of characters with the same name. I had my family tree, but I also took notes. So if there's something important that you want to remember, just write it down next to the family tree or make notes. Another thing that is really good to know is that the book is written from the perspective of Nellie or Ellie, and she tells the story about what happened in that time of Wuthering Heights. Nellie tells this story from the first person perspective. And the last tip that I have is that I heard some people say that they didn't get through the book and so they are going to give the audiobook a try. I don't think that's a good idea unless you listen to the audiobook while you read it on paper, because I don't think that you can concentrate enough on an audiobook. Like, even when you sit down and do nothing and listen to the audiobook, I think the level of this book is way too high and way too difficult to truly grasp it. I don't know if I make sense, but like, you really need to read it and you need to soak in the words, if that makes sense. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend an audiobook with this one because it asks so much of your attention, and it's really it's such a complex read, so I wouldn't recommend. The last thing that I want to say, so my overall feeling about the book, it feels gloomy and dark and gothic and like this, I don't know, it's such a dark and gloomy book. I love it. I don't know, it's such a dark and gloomy book. It's amazing. But I really enjoy these kind of books. If you know that you don't like dark gothic literature, then I wouldn't recommend this one for you because it's very there aren't any happy moments there. It's just so dark. All the characters are horrible in their own way, and normally I'd say I need my characters to be likable to enjoy the book, but Emily Bronte has proven that I don't need likable characters to like a book or to love a book. She has written them in such a way that it feels it's so intriguing and so real to read about them, and it's actually really refreshing too, because we always have this hero to root for or this likable characters, and we want to, you know, have adventures and be them. This book is like the complete opposite, and I think it's just an extra motivation to read it. I enjoyed it so much more than I thought I would, especially because I had mixed feelings the first time that I read it, but now that I'm so much more experienced in reading books and especially in reading classics, I can see the book in a whole new way, and I think I'm gonna read it again, to be honest, because it's so, I think every time it's so complex that every time you read it, you discover something new. Heathcliff is also a great villain. I loved him. I loved his dialogue. I loved everything about him. Not that he's a good person or anything. He's just a horrible human being. But he was very interesting as a villain to read. The writing, I loved the writing. It was beautiful. I didn't mark many quotes. I didn't really enjoy like the writing. It wasn't as poetic as like Tolstoy or anything, so I didn't mark a lot of quotes, but I shall read a few lines so you can have like this idea of what the writing style is like. I have not broken your heart. You have broken it, and in breaking it, you have broken mine. So much the worse for me that I am strong. Do I want to live? What kind of living will it be when you, oh God, would you like to live with your soul in the grave? The next one that I marked, I was weeping as much for him as her. We do sometimes pity creatures that have none of the feeling either for themselves or others. And the third quote, I pray every night that I may live after him, because I would rather be miserable than that he should be. That proves I love him better than myself. Good words, I replied, but deeds must prove it also, and after he is well, remember you don't forget resolutions formed in the hour of fear. So, these were my thoughts on Wuthering Heights. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it interesting. I did find it very interesting to reread a book that I had mixed feelings about. That was the first time ever that I did that. I think I will be doing it again, like rereading books that I didn't like the first time, because I'm very curious if there are more books that I would actually like now that I am a different person, you know, than 10 years ago. So yeah, we all change, we all evolve, and yeah, we can change. We can definitely change our opinion about a book, which is very interesting. I love it. So yeah, have a great day or night, guys, and thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.